The European Commission's head of trade has just wrapped up his visit to China with a press conference here, and he's really kind of perhaps toned down a little bit. We were a bit shocked, I think, those of us who are following the comments, from the strong tone that he took, and he said today that it's not a change in rhetoric, but a change in the facts, pointing to things like trade and some of the sentiment among European businesses. But what really came up in every single meeting, he said, was the EU probe into electric cars. That's something that's top of mind, recently released just by the EU in the last couple weeks, so very relevant here. He said that the EU is focusing its probe into subsidies on the production side, and while the EU itself has subsidies for consumer purchases, those are different in the sense especially that they apply to subsidies for cars purchased in the EU but made by all kinds of producers. And so they're looking more onto the production side of things. And somebody asked, what if the production was brought to the EU locally? How would that affect subsidies? Well, he said then that might not be compliant with WTO or EU rules. So we're still looking for a bit of clarity on that. Keep in mind the EU is looking to phase out all ICE vehicles by 2035. So this is a huge potential market that Chinese electric car companies have been rushing to fill. But now there is this certainty around investigations. Let's have a listen to what he said when I asked him about this.
Second important element for anti-subsidy investigation is risk of injury for EU industry, which we assess that it is there. In the last 2-3 years, share of Chinese brand electrical vehicles in the EU market has increased from less than 1% to 8%, and it has been like exponential growth, and clearly if it continues this way, there is a risk of injury for EU industry.
Certainly from an industry perspective, Volkswagen alone sells as much cars to China as it did to all of Western Europe. So this is a huge move with potential business implications. But the commissioner is saying they're not going to prejudge the outcome. They stand ready to work with their Chinese counterparts on this probe.